Hello, this is Will Faber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at a first submission by Lia of her horse Pip. Pip is a 9-year-old that she's had for about 3 years. She's a thoroughbred pony cross, and she's had quite a bit of soundness problems, stifle problems, and feet problems, a little laminitis with the horse, she says. And I want to say just from the very beginning that you're doing a great job with this horse, and you really get the horse to a good place at times, but the biggest thing I'm seeing is that foot soundness, and I think that your problem is shoes. So if I were you, the first thing I would do is get shoes onto this horse. Find yourself a reputable farrier who knows what they're doing, and I think you'll probably see a lot of your problems begin to disappear. It's very hard to work horses barefoot. Very few of them can stay sound unless they've been barefoot their whole lives and have really great feet, and your footing isn't too bad. But as you said, it sounds like it's rocky in your area and that sort of thing. So I think that's the biggest part of your problem, more than anything else that I see. So getting on with that, this walk work is actually pretty good. You know, once again, and for a horse that's not that's a little foot sore. You know, if you start pushing horses, and as you said, that she kind of bites at you and pins her ears back, that's usually a sign of there's something wrong. You know, horses generally want to move, and when they don't want to move and they're just very pissy about any kind of being moved forward, we usually find there is some kind of soundness issue or foot soreness issue or something like that. So I think getting those shoes on the horse would be your first step to making a move in the right direction with the horse. However, what you're doing here is quite good. You know, the horse looks a little sluggish, but really not bad from what you described. I think this is really quite good. And as I said later on in the tape, you really get this horse to a good place even when you're riding. So you are definitely on track. And I think if you solve the problems of the foot soreness, you're going to really make a lot of progress with this horse. I like the horse a lot. This is really a nice walk that you have here for this horse. It's starting to stretch down at least into it. Yes, could it be a little more active? Yes, it could, certainly. But this is not bad, and as I said, she's at least stretching out the neck and moving forward and swinging a little bit. And once again, with a little foot soreness, I would expect her to be a little resistant to that. Now, you can see there that she's dropped behind the saddle. If you see how her back drops away from the saddle, there's a bit of a hole there, so that tells us that the horse hasn't been working over her back her whole life. But it sounds like you understand that now, are ready to move forward and help her out. So I think you're going to see all that improve. Because as I said, you get this horse to a good place. You're doing a very good job. Now that's not a bad walk there. You know, it could be stretching down just a little bit more than that, quite a bit more than that really, but you know, that's not bad. It's fairly regular. And she's stretching at least into it, and she's not resisting here. So this is all good. Try to pick up the pace as you can, but what you're doing here is not bad at all, and I like how you're keeping the slack out of the line and keeping her moving forward. I think you're doing this pretty well, so I don't have any problem here. Good active walk. I see what you mean about that saddle. It does look a little bit long on the horse's back for this size of horse. I don't think it looks really terrible. I mean, having seen it here from what you described, it's you know, I see a lot of bad saddles, and you know, now I can't see close up, but it doesn't look that bad to me compared to some. Now I can't see the channel in it to see how wide it is. You know, that is where the spine goes, to see if it's sitting off her spine or not. I mean, it looks like it maybe sits down a little bit. But once again, I don't think that's the biggest part of your problem. I think the biggest part of your problem is foot soreness, from what I see here. Even when you start, she just looks like she kind of wants to throw that head up, but she doesn't want to put any pressure on those front feet. And that's usually a sign of horses that are sore, because she seems to be willing enough to stretch. And as I said, even under saddle, you get this horse to a really good place. So this is all good
4 minutes
in terms of how you're going about lunging her. Starting the trot again there, you just see she looks a little bit unlevel. But that's better than when you started it before. And she's stretching out pretty nicely into that. So this is all good. I like how you're staying at the top of the triangle. Now that's a really good stretch right there. Now what we need to do is get this horse swinging just a little bit more active, and this would actually be fantastic if you could just get her to move a little more actively forward. But what you're getting, as I say, is better than nothing, and you know, and is really quite good and in the right direction. So what you're doing here, she just needs to be a little more active. But once again, if the horse is a little foot sore, you can't push him. And if she gets really pissy about that, I would suggest that that's probably, once again, the problem is let's get shoes on this horse, and I think you're going to see a lot of her problems disappear. We see this all the time. And as I said, about every 5 years or so, this, you know, the idea of keeping horses barefoot runs through the horse community because everybody's tired of paying for horseshoes, and they all pull their shoes off and try to let these horses go barefoot. But like we are in California, it looks like you have very sandy, dry soil. It's probably full of rocks like it is here. Australia looks very much like California. We have all those beautiful eucalyptus trees. And so I think that's the biggest problem there, just getting her on some shoes. But she's really quite willing to work at the level that she can. And you know, you may find that these stifle issues, if you get this horse really working over her back, really may take care of the whole stifle issue. I've seen that work many, many times. So that's really a good stretch there, and really for her, that's really quite good. Really good stretch. You're doing a great job with this. As you said, you were shocked to see how few trainers understand foundation work. But it seems like you're getting it down really well, and that's what you want to have happen. Once again, if we don't do the work correctly, the foundation work, everything else in riding just becomes very complicated and difficult for students to do. You know, we must never mistake someone's ability to stay on, that is, a trainer who gets on and whips up horses and gets them all agitated and held against the hand. You know, it looks flashy to people who don't know what they're looking at. But the problem is the students can never ride like that. So, you know, they end up being sort of pawns of the trainer because, you know, they need the trainer to get up and get on and beat the horse up and whip it into some kind of frame that they think is correct. But really, you don't need that at all. It's quite simple training horses. It should take very little force to train a horse if you are not trying to force them into some frame that makes them completely uncomfortable. So you are on the right track here. Once again, I'd like to see her stretching down. Now here she's a little more active but doesn't want to stretch as much. That's better there. But she just really acts like a horse that's footsore to me, and it's probably just more footsore than, and of course that can be the cause of your laminitis to start with too. So if the horse steps on a bunch of rocks and its feet are all bruised up, of course bruising brings swelling, and that brings the laminitis. So get some shoes on the horse, and I think that'll take care of most of your problems. But you're really getting some good work here. This is a little more active, but once again, it may be that when you get her a little more active, she doesn't want to stretch so well because her feet are sore a little bit. Because definitely as horses stretch down, you know, we want them to swing through. So it's not so much the stretch down as they just, you know, she looks here a little bit like she's just trying to keep the weight off the front end a little bit. So this is really good. So she seems to get better as she goes, and that's of course typical too. You know, horses that they're a little sore, they kind of numb out, you know, in a bit. But that's not what we want to do because they're never going to give us what we want. But this is a pretty active trot, and when she stretches into it, it's really quite good as she comes around here like this. You know, for this horse at this level, this is really quite good, and you're doing a very good job of it. Just right, you're keeping the slack out of the rein for the most part, and staying at the top of the triangle formed by your whip hand and your rein hand, and you're able to keep her ahead of your leg. I'm not seeing any major problems with her in terms of accepting this, other than that, as I said, she just looks like she doesn't want to stretch down onto those front feet a little bit, because there's no doubt as they stretch down and start to swing through, the faster they go and swing, there's more pressure on the feet. The faster a horse goes, the more pressure per square inch on the horse's feet. So in a canter, that can be, you know, 5,000 pounds per square inch at a full gallop. So the pressure is that horses deal with on these little tiny bones in their legs is pretty amazing that they stay sound at all with what we do to them. So it's so important that we do this work correctly so that they will stay sound for a long time. And coming back to this walk, once again, a little sluggish there. Nothing terrible, though. In this direction, maybe she's not so good as the opposite direction. Interesting to see here. So yes, this walk could be a little more active, but she's stretching into it nicely. You got to a good place on the other side, and once again, I think it's more foot soundness than anything else. It's a little more sluggish in this direction. We keep trying to get a little more, but say I never push a horse. You know, if I see a horse pinning its ears back and these kind of things about moving, there's almost always some problem there, because it is the nature of horses to move. So when they don't want to, there's usually some problem going on with it. So a little more active there would be good, but you're starting to get it. It's interesting that she's quite better on the other side. And I think the rein connector that you're using there, it seems to be working well for you. That is the connector under the horse's chin there that you have your lunge line connected to. That works all right. You had also mentioned that you were interested in whether it was a good idea to work in this little arena or in your grass paddock. And I would say this arena is a good place. This doesn't seem too small. And the other issue is that, grass can be very, very hard on horses' feet and very unlevel. So I would stick to this arena. This seems like it's a good enough size for you for this, and the footing isn't too bad. I don't see too many rocks and things in it, at least from where I am here. So I would stick to this. I think that's your best bet here. She seems a little more reluctant in this direction to do what you want to do, which tends to make me think she's a little more sore in this direction. But once again, I think I'd start with shoeing to be your #1 next step. This walk is a little better, but as you can see, it's quite, as I say, like molasses, so to speak. Like the horse is pulling its back legs up out of mud there, so to speak. So your walk on the other side was quite a bit better than on this side. So she needs quite a bit more activity here. But once again, I wouldn't push her if she's, she seems to be starting to get a little better here. So taking your time is the thing to do. If the horse is just really, really resistive to moving, you want to find out what's causing that before we try to push them too much. Yes, sluggishness can sort of become a habit, where the horses just get so unfit that they just don't want to move, or they're so sore, and then even if they're not, if they've gotten away with it for a while, that is not moving forward, then they may not want to even after they're sound. So sometimes we have to push them a little bit, to remind them, hey, there is nothing wrong with you anymore. That is, if there isn't, but I don't think that's the case with this horse. I just think she looks a little footsore, and here as their walk is getting better, it's looking better. She's starting to swing a little better in this direction. The neck is starting to come down. So that's all good. It's improving as you're going. So if everything is improving, then we're in the right direction. Now, you did mention and comment on your own physical fitness, and you're absolutely right. I hope that everybody who rides understands that, we must be, the fitter you are, let's put it this way, the easier it is to do all of this, like it is anything else in life. So, if this is what inspires you to help you get in better shape, I highly recommend it. There, now that's a better stretch now. Once again, it's a little bit sluggish, and you see she stumbles a little bit. Now, as far as her being too low, which you mentioned, that's not a problem at all. Actually, this horse is stretching out quite nicely from the shoulder. Everything she's doing here is really good. It's just not active enough. She just looks a little more reluctant to go in this direction, so we'd like to see her swinging a little more active. But there, you're getting that going. Much better trot here. And good stretch. She's just not active enough. But that's hopeful to me that she'll stretch as well as she is stretching there in terms of her foot soreness. Very, very willing horse, and seems to learn very quickly. So everything you're doing is very, very good. Great job. Yeah, that's really nice. You've taken your time. You've gotten the horse to this point and didn't push her too hard when she was a little resistive. And it's all looking better as you're going. So once again, with just a little more swing in this trot, this horse is going to develop wonderfully. Very good. So this is looking better the more she's going. Now here she's getting a little more active and forward, so that's good. And I like how you've just taken your time, and you didn't try to just whip her up to go faster and faster. So you let her take her time and get used to what she's doing and feel a little more comfortable on her feet. So that's exactly what you want to do. This is looking better with every step. There, like that. Now that's really quite good. She could be swinging a bit more and active, but really for this horse, that's pretty good. So as she gets sound, boy, if she were just, if she feels more comfortable on her feet, I think you're going to make great strides forward with this horse, because she's doing everything that you want her to do. She's doing it quite nicely. And you can just see there, like when you try to pick her up a little bit, she looks a little stumbly on her feet. Once again, that's that foot soreness thing. But from what I'm seeing here, I don't think you're going to have a big stifle problem with this horse. I think if you can continue this work, I think your stifle problems are going to disappear. They usually do from this kind of work. So you can imagine when a horse is hollow and its head is up in the air, and its back drops, the hips, the tendons, nothing works right, so we get problems in all kinds of areas of the horse when it's not connecting correctly through its body, and then we ask it to carry weight, and pretty soon we've got a real problem on our hands. But this is really good. For this horse, that's a good swing in it. And you can see you try to push her. She gets a little pissy about that. And really, though she did even move a little more forward there, but she kind of brought her head up, and she just doesn't look so comfortable on those front feet. But she is trying for you, and as you're going here, she seems to be getting better and better all the time. So that's the right thing we want to be doing. I certainly wouldn't be cantering this horse, at this moment until you get the feet problems, of course, and I don't think you even do here, but that's the right idea. There she looks a little better and swinging forward there. That's really good right there. Now for her in this direction, that's really, really good. I like how you took your time to get there, but now that's really, really good. So great work. You've done a wonderful job of doing this all on your own. Really good stretch there. And for her, that's about right. I don't think it would be much better than that.
8 minutes.
Very nice transition back to the walk. Didn't just stumble into it. Good, so all good with that work with the lunge. Everything you were doing there was really very good. Same thing here, she's coming into the walk. This is really looking pretty nice. She needs to stretch the neck lower, but you get it there in a few moments. Not a bad active walk at all. There you go. I think this is going to turn into a really nice horse for you. I applaud you for taking the time you have to bring this horse back to health. Same thing here, the walk could just be a little more active, but I like how you're stretching up in the saddle. It's like you're holding yourself pretty well there. And other than maybe being a little bit long, I'm not, I really don't think the saddle, from what I've seen here, is all of your problem, or even that great a deal of it. And once again, if you had a smaller saddle than this, I mean, this saddle seems to fit you at your size right now. Now, if you get yourself into better shape and that sort of thing, and bring down your weight a little bit, you're going to find you can probably ride in a smaller saddle, and that may help her. But I don't think this is really too bad. I'd like to see this saddle closer up. If you send in another video, send a video of the horse up by its shoulders and show me the saddle upside down, show me how wide the gullet is in it. And that sort of thing. But I'm not seeing anything here just looking at you in it, other than the fact that maybe a little bit too long for this horse. But I don't think it's that big a problem. So I think if you solve your other problems, that is of the foot soreness, I think your saddle, you may be able to get by with it. Once again, I'd like to see it off of the horse and show me the underside of the panels, and the channel that goes down the middle of it, see how wide that is. But you've looked over my wife's saddle fitting lecture, I think, and gotten some good ideas from there to help you a little bit. Once again, not a bad walk here. She just needs to stretch a little lower, but from what I've seen on the lunge line, I think this is not bad at all. Your position is quite good. Your legs are hanging relaxed and underneath you, and your toe lifted. You're stretching up, and that's what you want to do. Keep engaging your core. So when you're sitting to the horse, you want to be sure that you tighten those stomach muscles a little bit and stretch up and flatten your shoulder blades into your back, which you're doing quite well. So I don't have any problem with your position there. I think that's pretty good. Everything else, she just needs to stretch a little deeper in that walk. It's pretty active, but it just needs to stretch down. You can see how there. And once again, here you can really see, and you can see it more under saddle there as you go by, the dip behind the saddle I'm talking about. You can see this horse, as you get on her with the weight, and she kind of drops her back away from that weight a little bit. So that's all a strength issue. So once again, I would like to have seen that walk get deeper into the stretch before you went into the trot. That's kind of my view. Is I run the gears in the order that they are, and I try to fulfill that requirement in each gait as I go up. And if I don't move up. So if I can't get the horse to stretch all the way down in the walk, I'm not going to trot it. I'm just going to wait till I can get the stretch all the way down in the walk and really get the horse stretching over its back and supporting my weight. Once again, when we see her go into the trot, she seems to be struggling quite a bit, and once again, that looks like foot soreness to me. You see how she's kind of stumbling along there a little bit. She looks a little bit like she's trotting on eggshells, and that's your sore foot problem there. Though you're doing a good job of rising the trot and getting off her back, she needs to stretch much deeper, but you do get her just like on the lunge. You slowly got it there, so that's all good and commendable work. You see how she's starting to give here and relax a little bit. And what you'll notice is that as she stretches, the more she stretches, the better she will look. She gets away from that like sort of mincing little stride like you see like there, where we see that the legs aren't moving quite in unison, that is the front and back on the diagonal pairs. And there's no thrust off the ground at all. Right now this horse is moving very flat-footed. She's not pushing you up underneath her. So that's what we want to improve, and that of course helps your riding. People don't understand, if you're riding on a hollow horse, it's kind of like posting out of a hole, so to speak. You know, the horse doesn't help you. Or the horse is moving correctly to its back, you can rise the trot for hours because the horse's back just pops you right back out of the saddle. It takes very little effort on the part of the rider, and that's what we want. If you really had to travel a long distance, if you had to travel, you know, posting against your feet to get out of the hole in the horse's back, well, you would soon be worn out. So thus the importance of this. So once again, now this is getting a little more active. The neck is still hollow. You can see how the bottom of her neck is tense there, so that tells us that she's kind of pulling with her shoulders more than she's letting you swing over her back and lift her back up. Though this trot's getting a little better. As you go here, it's getting longer, and you're starting to get her stretch into the contact. But you see, all this would be much easier if you'd gotten a deeper stretch at the walk first, and that's what I would strive for, you know, in your future rides, is be sure you get her all the way there in the walk, because if you can't, then you're going to have to do like you did here. You did a lot of sort of stumbling trot work where she tries to get her back underneath you, and this horse really tries. I mean, it's very, very commendable, the job you're doing here. You're not fussing with her mouth. You're just letting her move forward and trying to establish contact there. Now that looks better. Now notice as soon as that head begins to drop, how much better the legs look in terms of their movement, the diagonal pairs and the swing of the trot. So it's definitely improving as you're going. And kind of that's my rule of thumb, you know, if you can improve as you go, then it's all good. You know, if you end up with a horse as a lathered lunatic at the end of your ride, you haven't really accomplished much. There, look at that. That's looking so much better. And you see how now she's starting to swing. Trot doesn't look so mincing. She doesn't have that sort of egg beater look about her legs that she had there when she first started off in the trot. But as I said, what you'll find is if you get the stretch deeper in your walk before you begin this, and try this for a few days, just do nothing but walk. And when you ride, now you said you were going to try to get a new saddle, but you know, I'm not seeing that the saddle is the biggest part of your problem. Yes, it could probably be improved, but as I said, the feet issue is, I think, the biggest part of your problem. So get shoes on this horse, and I think a lot of your problems are going to disappear. Now remember to be sure that you rise on your correct diagonals. You're rising to the inside diagonal right now. As you can see how you're coming up and out of the saddle as the horse's front leg is coming up. You should be doing that to the outside. Now it really doesn't matter. It just matters that you do it consistently. In other words, you could consistently rise at the inside diagonal, as they do in some countries. And when you switch directions to show the other side, it really doesn't make that much difference. What makes a difference is that you are consistent about it so that the muscles can develop equally on both sides. Because if you always rise to one diagonal, the horse is going to become very lopsided because all the pressure is going to be on one side and not on the other. So be sure that you rise to that outside diagonal, and that you always do that consistently when you can. And that will help the horse to develop. Now, if you're unaware of your diagonals, that's something that you need to figure out, which is that you want to rise to the outside diagonal. That is, as the outside foreleg is coming up and forward, you should be coming up and forward. And if you can't feel that at first, certainly you can glance down and see the horse's shoulders and see which one is advancing as you're coming up and out of the saddle. Now, I like how you came back to the walk, especially with a horse like this, you know, who may be a little footsore, and giving her a little more time in each new direction. So that's what I would say, is I would do it just like that. Work one direction till you get it as right as you can, you know, and then don't try to even reverse at the trot until you can get both sides really good, and then start trying to switch directions. It's just like making transitions between gaits. There's no point in trying to make the horse do a perfect transition between the walk and trot when it can't even stay in a perfect frame in the walk or trot. So I see people getting hung up on the wrong things. So with a horse at this level, when I go from the trot, walk to the trot, I simply just start them, and they'll be wherever they are, and then I correct them. Pretty soon, when I can get them correct in both gaits, stretching and taking correct contact and working over their backs, then all the problems of the transitions between gaits just disappear all by themselves. So once again, the walk gets better as you go here, but you can see how she tenses that neck there. We just need to get that much longer and getting her stretched out. But you do get her there, and she gets there, relatively easily from what I've seen here, which, once again, talking about the feet. When she gets more comfortable on those feet, I think all this is going to come much quicker for you. Now, another thing that you might want to take a look at my videos on work in hand and see if you can do a little work in hand with this horse, which will help you with your lateral work and will also help you with the stretching before you get on. In other words, you could lunge and then work in hand a little bit. But just be sure that you really understand that work and it's comfortable for you if you decide to try it. But you've done everything else so well here, I can't imagine that you couldn't possibly do a little bit of that as well. So take a look at the work in hand videos on the site, and that might help her get her a little more supple. Now this is better, so as you trot off here, once again she's looking a little better now in this direction, but you see how she stumbles there on her feet. Once again, I don't think that's stifle, I think that's foot soreness from what I see there. But this is looking much better. Now the neck is getting out there, and once again, look at how it changes the horse's gait. When the horse starts to, the longer the horse stretches its neck, the more swinging and even the horse's legs look in the diagonal pairs. That is, watch the outside front leg and the inside foreleg. In the trot, they move in diagonal pairs. Now, just to note that here you are rising on the correct diagonal, which is the outside one. That may have just been a moment that you weren't paying attention to what you were doing there. Now, this is really good. Now she's starting to stretch into the contact. So this is really good work. You're really on track here. And, if you get this horse foot sound, she's going to just be turned into a lovely horse for you. You can even see there as she starts to swing, the hollow looks a little less behind the saddle there. It looks like it begins to come up a little bit, which is what we're looking for. So this is really quite good now. She could go a little bit deeper than that, but it's starting to swing quite nicely. You're doing such a great job of just keeping a soft, even contact. And once again, this is what it should always look like. When you see these riders who are fighting with the mouths of horses, you run in the other direction, because it tells you right away that they're clueless about what they're doing. Because if you fight the front end, the back end is never going to come through. But this is really quite good. She's starting to swing more actively now. There, that neck is looking much better. So this is really good. That's about the best that she looks in the trot there. That's really good. Now, of course, she's come a little hollow here again. But you do a very good job of just softening her back and getting her to accept that contact and start to swing forward and reach into it. So everything you're doing is really good. Once again, I hope you do take this opportunity and this inspiration to get yourself in a little better shape, because you could really be a good rider. Look at that. You're doing a wonderful job. Your position looks great. Everything is just doing really well. And of course, your horse is going to carry you much more easily, when you get off the excess weight and you're able to carry yourself. But you are really doing a great job with this. I really don't have a problem. With where you've come from to this is really wonderful. And working on your own, you've put it all together. It just makes me feel so good when I see people like you. There you go. That's what you're looking for. Who are able to do this all on their own. Riding really is simple. And once you understand the basic foundations and the order in which you have to do things, it simplifies it. And you will no longer even need a trainer. You need an eye on the ground to help you move forward when you're ready, that kind of little thing a little bit. But once you understand these basic principles of getting the horse over the back, you know that guides everything else that we do. So if you lose the back, you must go back and reestablish that before anything else is going to happen. So you're doing a wonderful job with this horse. There, now that looks really good. Of course, she popped up there as soon as I said that, but you get the idea. When she's right, you're getting some wonderful work. And when she's not, you're not just grabbing hold of her mouth and trying to pull her head down. You're there like that. Now it's working over her back again. There, really nice there. That's what we're looking for. And once again, look how different. Now, she's not thrusting off the ground, but she's starting to get over her back right there. Now, from that, we'll develop thrust. She'll actually start to lift up and push you off the ground and carry you better. So really great job, Leah. You've done a wonderful job with this horse. I can't wait to see her after you get some shoes on. That would be my advice. The first thing you do is find a good shoer. Now, I always, be sure you get some recommendations if you don't know a shoer. I'm not sure what area you are in. I have a very good friend in Australia who was one of the best shoers here in the States who moved over there. He used to be outside the Melbourne area, so I'm not sure where you are, but we'll try to find somebody good. Great work. I look forward to seeing your next video. Keep it up. This was really wonderful work with this horse. Get shoes on it, and I think we're going to see great progress. See you.